You know, this song is called Feeding the Ducks, and I always play it because obviously I am a proponent of ducks and taking them home. But I always play this one just because just because it's called Feeding the Ducks.
It's very on brand.
Right. All right, what's up, everybody? Your boy 10 Day Tony. We got Adam Rauch from EstablishTheRun.com. They have a bunch of incredible stuff when it comes to all the fantasy football content that you need. Bear with me 1 second while I turn this off. All right, here we go. All right, we're good.
We can't listen to the duck music anymore?
I mean, we could, but it was distracting, and then I got to kind of figure out how to turn it off, and there's like 18 different tabs, and Lewis is not here on the back end to help me out, so it's just me and you, and I figured, I'd let it ride, but, come on.
No.
All right, so, again, from the top, smart football people, every Thursday we make it happen. We build Draftkings lineups on the Thursday slate. We usually have a guest. We've actually had 2 Establish the Run guests in a row. First time we did a couple weeks ago, we had Drew Dinkmeyer, legendary DFS player, and now we have. I don't know if I could call you a whiz kid. Do you like being called a whiz kid? That's a weird. It's a weird one.
People in my circle in life would not call me a whiz kid.
What would they call you?
I don't know. I don't know what they would call me. I just.
Oh, did we lose him? I think he's frozen. I hung with him for a second, guys. I was waiting. He was at the edge. I was at the edge of my seat trying to figure out what people in his life called him. But alas, that's Adam Rauch from Establish the Run. He does a bunch of good articles when it comes to main slate projections on DFS. I'm gonna give him a second to see if he comes back. No biggie. Now it's just gonna be your boy. But I'm excited. We've got a bit of a slop fest tonight. Live TV, buddy. It happens. We got a bit of a slop fest tonight. We got Steelers. We've got the Cleveland Browns. And let me tell you, I know that Adam jumped out. He'll be back in a second. Let me see. Oh, there we go. I know. All right, here we go. No, you're good.
All right.
You're good. You're good. We're back. We're back. We're back. Yeah, we're back.
We're good.
Yeah. So I was telling the people, a bit of a slop fest tonight. We got the Steelers. Yeah. We've got the Browns. Obviously, Amazon wanted to make a big splash on Thursday night with their first official broadcast. And let's start there for a quick second. How did you feel turning on Amazon Prime and turning on the game and it being like very antiseptic, right? Like I'm used to seeing logos of broadcast partners of the league, whether it be NBC, whether it be CBS, ESPN, Fox, and I just saw like Prime Video, and it looked to me. This is how I'll explain it. It looked like a movie of like a game.
It's just this is life now. Amazon just is life, right? Like I almost feel like it's just an overload of Amazon. I got Amazon boxes showing up at my house every day. I got Amazon on my TV screen. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a great looking set. I went to a preseason game earlier this year where the Texans were playing on Amazon that Thursday night. Great looking set. I mean, they've got the whole operation down, but man,
they don't have a lack of money, right? Like nothing's going to look cheap there. Everything's going to be first class, but it's just so weird. I saw Michaels, I saw Kirk, and I was like, it kind of looks to me like when Adam Sandler does a movie and he brings like Dan Patrick and somebody else to do like a broadcast of a game. That's what it felt like to me. I was watching. I was like, is this real life? Are we really doing this right now? I'm like, okay, I guess so. They obviously wanted a bang to start off the prime season. So they got Chargers and Chiefs, what ended up being an all right game.
I mean, we really were spoiled those first 2 weeks.
Of course.
Rams, Bills to kick it off. They got to slip in one that's a little less appealing on the front end. But you know what? It's a sloppy game, but we're going to have fun with it.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's no question. That's no question.
Absolutely.
So let's rip it up. What we're going to do here, just for everybody involved, we're going to set our lineup as we usually do, our 30K Pylon for Thursday nights. That is a captain-led showdown game, which is right here. And then we're going to break through on the main slate and put up a bunch of stuff to get you ready build your DFS lineups and stuff like that. Adam, really quick, before we start doing this, hold on. I'm going to bring this back down for a second just because we don't want to, we want to get our proper plugs in here. Can you explain to the people what you do with Establish the Run when it comes to game scores, your algo, your basically what it is and how it's useful to people?
I'll give people some context. So a couple of years pandemic, I was kind of locked up on isolation for a couple of weeks and was working on this project, as one does when you have all the time in the world. And I've been playing DFS for a few years now, and I'm mostly a hand builder. I don't use an optimizer or anything. I love hand building.
Explain that for people, because there's a lot of terms that we use that some people are like, wait, hand builder, what does that mean?
Hand building just means I log on to Draftkings.com, I pull up the build your lineup menu, and I build
on
it
a
myself.
Desktop, like
on
an
a
alpha.
Desktop, not on a phone, on the toilet on a Sunday morning. I'm building it on a desktop the way it should be, the way nature intended it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I like to play. But an issue that I often would run into was you could look at any main slate and make an argument for 70% of the games about why you should be stacking this game or stacking this game. When we talk stacking games, we mean playing multiple players from a team or from both teams in the same game. So last week was a perfect example with Miami and Baltimore. The two of double stacks won people a bunch of money. So my idea was, well, how do we create a visual where we can easily tell people, hey, these are the games that we should be stacking on any given main slate. So it was a long process, kind of drawn out over, I want to say a year period, but basically identifying which game environments are the best to attack from a game stacking perspective. So that comes down to ceiling projections, which are basically like our top 1% ceiling, or like top 1% game projection, ownership, the average salary of the game. Combine that all into an equation, put it out on a table, and it shows you, hey, these are the games we like, and these are the games that aren't, projecting as well. So that's my primary role with ETR. I also am on the research team there. Shout out to the research team, all you guys over there. So yeah.
And funny enough, you and I talk probably once a week when your scores come out, and you're like, you text me last week, and I am beyond pissed with myself that I had some exposure to the game, but I didn't go in as much as I should have with double stacks, with a bring back, like all that stuff.
And it's difficult. It's difficult because it depends really on the contest that you're playing. I'm a
GPP bro. I'm a GPP bro.
Me too. But I'm talking about like large field versus small field.
Right.
When you had Drew on, he kind of made this point too, where stacking is probably a more feasible strategy in a smaller field tournament where you don't actually have to have like the top optimal 1% lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So correlation is really big when it comes to smaller field GPPs, 3 max or single entry. So I think that's how I like to play. I know I think that's how you like to play, unless you're more of a milli maker kind of guy. But
I dabble in everything. I'm trying to make some money around here, just like all the guys and girls that are watching right now. Everybody's trying to make a little money. And when you text me, guess who's the #1 rated game score, and you told me it was Tua versus the Ravens, I had a little bit of like a moment where I was like, maybe this algorithm, you know what? I don't know about it. I don't know about this thing. And then all of a sudden we had an offensive explosion. That must have been like, this works.
Dude, it was a great week for the game scores. It was a great week for the Tua double stacks. All of us at ETR were high on that.
Leone won the Thunderdome. What do you win, like 50 grand?
King of the Dome Leone. Shout out to Mike Leone, who's won it at least 2 or 3 times now. But yeah, he Tua double stack in the Thunderdome. I don't remember if it was a Tua stack or a Lamar stack, but he stacked that game and won the Thunderdome. Shout out to Mike. Great guy.
We got to have Mike on one of these days.
We do. We really do.
Mike is another guy from Establish the Run who's an absolute just genius when it comes to DFS, like all you guys are, which is why I have you guys on, because you're geniuses. All right, so let's rip up tonight. We've got the 30K Pylon, 3K to first place, and that's what we're shooting for here. Before we started, I showed you everything here, and I was looking through. Cody Main does a great article on your guys' side and Establish the Run.
Shout out to Cody Main.
Shout out to Cody. Another guy we have to get on because I just need to siphon all of your geniuses to see if we can make some money here. And my promise, and I promise this to Drew, if we ever hit on the number one, take home 3K, I'm sending you a check for $1,000 and whoever else is on. So it's incentive for everybody to make shit happen. As I was reading his stuff, I was looking at the projections that you guys have, which are all proprietary to Establish the Run in some secret lab way, way, way underground with probably thousands of virgins making it happen, because Adam says that's all you guys have over there. I was looking at projections for captain ownership, and obviously we play captain in Showdown. You get 1.5 points per point if you have your captain. Of course, the caveat is that their salary is a little bit higher to adjust for that. As I was looking through the salary projections and the captain's projections, one guy stood out to me. And one of the things that Drew was telling me, which is true for everybody, when you have one of these single game showdowns, you want to tell yourself a narrative about the game, right? Obviously, we think it's going to be a slop fest. Over under 38.5. It's a 4.5 point spread. Two teams that have just not really been great offensively. We can get into all those numbers in a second. But when I looked at Kareem Hunt's captain ownership and his price, I told you, I'm like, I kind of like Kareem Hunt as our captain. And then you said, me too. What did you say to me?
Well, I said I was literally about to tell you the same exact thing.
And then we started right then and there because I was like, all right, we got to go.
We hit it off right there. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's a lot of bias right now. I think when it comes to Nick Chubb, I think Nick Chubb is going to be really steamed up in this Showdown slate. I think he's going to be super heavily owned, and rightfully so, right? I mean, Nick Chubb has been a hoss this year. He's leading
number one back in fantasy.
Number one back in fantasy. He's got almost 40 carries through 2 games. He scored 3 touchdowns last week against the Jets. Like, all of the numbers dictate that Nick Chubb is overall maybe the best play on the Showdown slate, and he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. However, if you kind of look deeper into the usage statistics, and shout out to PFF Dwayne McFarland, who puts out really solid usage reports every week. So Nick Chubb's RB carry share, teams rushing attempts, is 55%. And he's got a 7% target share. So tells me that, yes, Chubb's getting a lot of the work, but Kareem Hunt is still heavily involved in the game plan. He's going to get that work too. And the reality is that the Browns have just been running the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
And there have been in these kind of crazy game scripts, in recent weeks. So I don't think it's out of the question at all that Kareem Hunt could kind of go overlooked tonight. And especially on Draftkings where we're counting full PPR, Kareem Hunt catching passes out of the backfield. If they're maybe in a game script where they need to play catch up a little bit, look out. I don't know.
And this is the interesting part. This is the interesting part about the Steelers, right? They are, I think I read they were on the upper third of the league in pass rate over expectation and neutral game scripts, and they were like 63% or something. I think they were at 7th, if my memory serves me correctly. I think they were 7th in the league in pass rate over expectation. They just can't establish drives, right? Like they're always going 3 and out. If that's a byproduct of Matt Canada or if that's a byproduct of Mitch Trubisky not being able to elongate drives, that's still to be determined. But they want to throw the ball, right? We have Deontay Johnson, who's got 40% of their air yards. I think a hair under 40% of their air yards. He's got a healthy, a dominant 31% of their target shares. Like these are guys that you can bank on to. If I put a blind taste test in front of you, for lack of a better term, and I said a guy that's got 40% of his team's air yards and it's got 31%, like that's somebody that I'm thinking, okay, that receiver is balling, right? Yeah. And then you see Deontay Johnson, you see what the Steelers are doing offensively. They can't get Najee Harris going. I know Brandon Thorne's got them ranked as like the worst offensive line or one of the worst offensive lines in football. They can't get the run going. They can't get the pass going. They're just stuck in this no man's land. But with all that being said, the Browns just gave up 31 points to the Jets and Joe Flacco. So it's like, we thought the Browns defense
No,
was
it's
going to be somewhat good. Their pass rush is good. Their corners are struggling. I don't know what's happening, but the whole game just feels weird.
It feels weird, and let's remember that these Thursday night games, these island games, can be. I mean, you're talking about going on a short week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Browns defense is banged up. I think Jadeveon Clowney's out for this game. I think I saw that. Myles Garrett was questionable, though he is playing. So
I'm gonna check on Clowney right now. But go ahead.
I'm 99% positive on Clowney that he's out. But I think there's an opportunity here. The Steelers have obviously been trying to play more into the pass. They just haven't been able to sustain drives. They've got talent. I think if you look at the core skill position players on both sides, you could easily make the argument that the Steelers have the better weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay, Chase Claypool, George Pickens has been getting a lot of love.
A lot of love, but not a lot of catches.
Not a lot of catches.
Not a lot of targets.
But his route participation is good too. He's on the field.
Insane. Yeah.
He's on the field. So, if you get, 2 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown from George Pickens tonight, I mean, it's going to be tough. We kind of talked about a slog of a game. The total's at 38.
Which is so low.
And I heard some scary stats on the weather for this game. I don't know if you saw that there's like 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds and like 30 mile per hour gusts.
Mm-hmm.
That worries me a little bit.
That's something that people don't take into consideration when they're building out lineups or when they're starting in redraft and season longs. Some people just put it like in their minds that like everybody plays in a dome and weather's not a factor. I remember, I want to say it was during the pandemic, the 2020 season, where the Raiders went into Cleveland and it was like 60 mile an hour winds in Cleveland and nobody could throw the ball. And I remember I was playing a guy that had Darren Waller and I was like, oh my God, he's not going to take him out. And I think he had like a decent backup where he could have swapped him, right? And it wouldn't have been that big of a difference. And he kept him in there. I think Waller went like 1 for 25 or something. And I was like, perfect. But to that being said, like the amount that people don't pay attention to the weather is what differentiates the sharps from the squares, because squares will just put in, oh, this is going to be a high flying game. I'm predicting it's going to be an over game. And it's like, well, no, the sharps are all in on defense and running the ball.
Yeah, and I think there's a fine. First of all, I'm not a meteorologist here. Okay, I'm no,
what? That's why I brought you on.
I'm no Jim Cantori, but we try not to be too overreactive to weather. Rain and snow often can be kind of overreacted to, I think. But the wind is where, especially sustained winds, is where we kind of got to pay attention a little bit, especially when we're talking about quarterbacks like Mitch Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett. So right. I think it's
temper
not
expectations.
Temper expectations. I'm not saying that we got to fade both quarterbacks in this game. In fact, we shouldn't, in my opinion. But
especially in a one-game slate.
Even if you have low floor QBs, I think you just have to kind of be mindful of it when you're looking at a game with these kind of conditions, with this kind of a total, on a short week on a Thursday night with the rushing attacks that these teams bring to the table.
All right, so let's since we're both on this, I feel like getting the captain right is the toughest part, right? And I feel like Kareem Hunt gives us both not only I like it from both angles, right? In a game where somehow the Steelers get up to an early lead and the Browns are going to have to play from behind, we have the ability for Kareem Hunt to be in the pass game, obviously way much more than Nick Chubb is. But we can also see a situation in where and again, we'd have to look at the usage rates, right? And the snap shares and all that. But like, is it out of the question on a short week with Nick Chubb having 40 carries in the last 2 weeks, that if the Browns are up, they could be like, hey, Kareem Hunt, why don't you take a little bit more of the workload? We'll give a little bit more of a backseat to Nick Chubb. Obviously, they've got to play again. They're going to have a little bit longer rest, but give him a little bit of a rest during the game too. Like, is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy. I mean, I think in any game strip, Kareem Hunt gets work, whether they're up or not. I mean, keep in mind. I mean, it's not like as I said earlier, Nick Chubb carry share 55%. Kareem Hunt is fourth in the league in red zone carries this year. He gets end zone targets. I mean, he's going to be on the field. But I wanted to ask you. So we were kind of in agreement on Kareem Hunt. At some point in this showdown build that we're going to do. But how do you think the game is going to go? Just from like a game script perspective, like the line right now is Cleveland -4 on Draftkings.
I think 4.5. Yeah.
4.5. So, I mean, in my opinion, I think I could see a scenario where the Steelers could cover or maybe even outright win the game. I just don't think the Browns are that good. Like, I think the Browns are kind of overhyped. But I do agree with you. Like, even in a scenario like that, Kareem Hunt is still a really viable play.
Just looking at the Browns season, right, and off the top of my head, for some reason, and I don't know why I've done this to myself, I've turned into a guy that believes in DJ Moore so much. This is gonna be a crazy thing, but I'm gonna take it to a certain place. I believe in DJ Moore so much, the talent level so much, that I thought Baker was gonna be the guy. So I was very locked into Week 1, Browns versus Panthers.
Yeah.
For God only knows what reason, because it was an abysmal game, right? But I say all that to say, watching the Browns play the Panthers and then watching them play the Jets, they haven't really played anybody, right? They've played two teams that are below average. I actually really like the Jets roster, and I've said it multiple times on here. I've said it on different podcasts. Like, the Patriots have the worst roster top to bottom in the AFC East. The Jets have a better roster, literally man to man, all the way down the line, than the Patriots do. And for the Steelers to go out and do what they did against the Bengals in Week 1, obviously having 5 turnovers on Joe Burrow, and then again struggling against a Patriots team that wasn't that great. Both teams are not good, but I think the Steelers have a little bit more juice than at least maybe defensively too, than the Browns do. So I'm gambling again, and if I was going to play this game, I'm going to sit it out. One of my boys is actually in Michigan, and he's going to a casino. He's like, "What do I bet today?" I'm just bet the under and just get the hell out of Dodge. Like, don't even worry about it. Don't bet anybody. Just bet the under. If I was betting this game tonight, I'd probably take the points in a low scoring game. I take the points, especially, maybe closer to kickoff. It might swing one way or the other, depending on some sort of news, maybe. But 4.5, I'll take the Steelers. I think the Steelers have a better offense, right? I like this.
They have the better skill players.
They do, and they don't at the same time. Weirdly enough, right? Like, I like the backs in Cleveland better. I like the receivers in Pittsburgh better. I think.
So that's what I meant, by the way. The receivers I like more on Pittsburgh. Yes, you're right about the backs. You're right.
The tight end, like Njoku's usage, very puzzling to me. He's out there a ton. He's out there more than 90% of the snaps, and he's gotten for like 5 more targets than I have this season. Like, there's things that just can't be explained. But if you're asking me what I do tonight, I'd probably take the points in the Steelers. So if we want to paint ourselves a narrative, I can see a game in which it's 20-14 Steelers, right? 20-14 Browns. Like, I can see that. Right. I can see that easily.
Yeah. All right. Well, so let's kind of build it out. I mean, I think Kareem Hunt at captain is good. I like that. I think we have multiple outs there for him getting captain worthy amount of points tonight. What are your thoughts on defenses for Showdown?
I don't hate it. I feel like, and I've read this in a couple of places, like there's a good percentage. A good obviously is subjective, right? Depending on a lot of things, but I've seen a decent amount of teams that are the optimal lineup that have a defensive or kicker in their lineup, right? Yeah. And I don't hate having a defense. I feel like getting burned by a defense is a tougher pill to swallow than getting burned by like a dart throw wide receiver like a George Pickens, or on Monday night if you're playing that double slate on like a Quez Watkins, right? That can go and do exactly what he did, and that earns you the 2K that you spent on him. But if he doesn't catch that pass, you're kind of just, shit out of luck. So I'm not opposed to having a defense. Like we can definitely do a defense.
I think we should at least consider it. I think we should at
Okay,
least consider
a
it.
little stack with the we stacked the Browns D with Kareem Hunt.
I think that's certainly, yeah, I think that's certainly reasonable. Like we kind of alluded to it earlier, the Steelers' offensive line, even though I think they've been playing slightly above what they've been expected to play this year, they're lacking talent.
Yeah.
And, I said at the top of the hour, Jadeveon Clowney is out tonight, but Myles Garrett is in, and Cleveland's at home. If we're kind of running out of game script where we think it's going to be pretty competitive, it's going to be pretty close, I still think that Cleveland's defense can make an impact and kind of take advantage of the Steelers' offensive line. So I think it makes sense, especially in a low-scoring game. Again, we're talking about a total of 38.
Right. And if we have the outside guys, we have Deontay Johnson and Denzel Ward, like that could be problematic for him. I don't know if he'll shadow the whole time, but they may move him around the formation, at least of one side or the other. I like the Browns. I like the Browns defense just because, like I don't trust Mitch Trubisky, right? I don't trust him, and I'm trying to find any which way to make sure that he's being put in a bad position, which is Myles Garrett, over his left shoulder over there is coming to take his head off. So I like that. What quarterback do we can't say all that and then take Mitch Trubisky, right?
Well, here's the thing about Mitch Trubisky. So
we're gonna do it. Oh my God.
Well, so this is where you really got to think about like how is this game going to play out? Because if we've got high winds majority of the game, let's say let's kind of scale back the downfield throwing a little bit. Let's talk about like the two quarterbacks side by side, Mitch Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett. Who's the better rusher?
Yeah, it's Mitch.
It's Mitch, and we've seen in Chicago that they had plays where they had designed runs for him. If he's pressured, which we're kind of anticipating, may see some scenarios where Mitch takes off and runs.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to have a game with low passing volume and we want to have a quarterback in here, Mitch Trubisky still may be the play. It just kind of, unless we think that Cleveland's going to be able to kind of pass all over the field and take advantage of the Patriots of the Steelers secondary, then maybe Jacoby Brissett's the better play. But I think in this kind of a game environment, I don't think you could go wrong playing Trubisky. Even though he may make some mistakes, he could also get you some of that rushing floor back.
Playing the devil's advocate, do we think we're hustling backwards, taking Trubisky and the Browns defense? Like if one guy goes off or if one team goes off, then we're kind of neutering ourselves when it comes to a 1 out of 6 chances to have an optimal lineup, right? Like if we scrub one guy out, because there's always going to be an intrinsic problem when a quarterback is going off and you have the opposing defense, or the defense is going off and you have the opposing quarterback and it's not good. I'm just playing devil's advocate, just throwing that in there.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on maybe instead of switching out Trubisky, I think the Steelers have a shot tonight, Tony. I really do,
dude. I'm all with you, man. Like if I was betting the game, I'd take Steelers plus 4.5.
So, what if we switched out Steelers D for Browns D?
Okay.
Put in Mitch.
Okay. Steelers D actually save a couple bucks here, I think.
Yeah, I think we can make something that builds out pretty nicely here.
Do we keep Mitch? And
Mitch.
We've got a good amount of money.
Keep Mitch.
We've gone cheap. We've gone cheap for our first 3 picks.
Yeah, and now we can start kind of focusing on spending a little bit more. If the way I'm seeing it, I think there's a chance that the Steelers could be in a positive game script tonight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what that means. I know what that means.
I think.
Do we trust him? I'm not even going to say his name. Do we trust him?
If I think you're talking about who I think you're talking about, I think we do trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. I For some reason, I was low on him. I know a lot of the guys on ETR were low on him as well. Let me see where the hell my mouse is. A lot of the guys on the site were low on him. I skipped over him a ton in the first round. Where's my mouse?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I did too. But I think this could be a Najee week. If we're talking a positive game script for the Steelers.
Okay, there he is.
I didn't feel comfortable putting him at the captain spot, just because I didn't know, Jaylen Warren's kind of siphoning away some of that passing down work with Najee.
Mm-hmm.
But if we think that it's going to be a run heavy game script, I mean, Najee's still getting the bulk of the carries.
Yeah, no, of course.
And all he has to do is fall past the goal line a couple times.
Just once.
Just
once.
Pylon.
Give us 80. Just give us 80, a tutty, and a couple catches, buddy. That's all we need.
That's all we need.
Okay, so 2 spots. We've got a nice 15-8 left.
Yeah.
Is it worth throwing in? We've got a bit of a stack with obviously Trubisky and Harris and the Steelers defense, even though there's
I think we could still have room for a pass catcher on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the salaries kind of build out, I think even though Deontay Johnson is absolute boss, target earner.
Yes.
Is Chase Claypool a little interesting?
Dude, the way that they were using him in the first game, I saw he had 27% of the rushes in game 1, which they started doing a lot when he first came on the scene with Ben, who had a pool noodle for an arm and couldn't throw. Yeah. So they would do these end arounds to Chase Claypool. And I feel like as a defensive coordinator on the other side, like I can almost see it coming. But I'm intrigued by the way they used him in week 1. Not so intrigued by the way that they used him in week 2. I feel like the Patriots were kind of zoned in on him as a rusher, because like you go from, do we even know? Because I know Najee got hurt in that game. Did Chase Claypool end up with more carries than Jaylen Warren did?
Oh,
did that happen? Did that happen?
Wait a minute.
I think he had like 6. I think if I saw the numbers correctly, I think Claypool might have had like 5 or 6 carries, and I want to say Jaylen Warren had between like 6 to 10. Like there's an intersection where Chase Claypool may have had more rushes. Than
we're talking about week 1 or week
1?
2?
Week 1.
Okay, yeah.
Week 1, because I saw that Claypool had 27% of the rushes, and I was like, that can't be right, but it is.
I mean, he.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say he just going back to week 1. I think you were right about that. I'm just pulling up the box score just to confirm that, because that was a bit of a crazy game though too, right? I mean, that overtime game against the Bengals.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy,
and it was inflated too because they played a lot. You know,
there were a lot, so many snaps.
A ton of snaps.
Yes. Okay, so you're right. Yeah, Claypool had 6 carries for 36 yards. Jaylen Warren had 3 for 7.
Why did I think he had more than that? Maybe because the overtime I clouded my memory. But dude, like if they're gonna give him the Debo usage, then yeah, I'm interested. Of course. Could this be a game where we got to neutralize the pass rush? We know that our offensive line is not great. We know that that Myles Garrett's on the outside. Maybe to neutralize him a little bit, we run crossers. We run
short routes with Chase Claypool.
Not only that, but like get him off the line of scrimmage.
Get him off the line, yeah.
Give him carries. Like this could be a game where they game script him in, right? I feel like Deontay's always going to be Deontay. He's going to be their alpha number 1. George Pickens is I think he's ran what, like he's top 6. And I'm just doing this off the top of my head. He's top 6 in the NFL on go routes. He's ran like 20 some odd go routes. He hasn't caught shit.
I wouldn't be surprised. His ADOT is 21.5,
which is great if you're getting a ton of volume, right?
Yeah.
But if you're 2 for 23 on the season, your ADOT's 21 because you caught a 23-yard pass and a 1-yard pass. Like
Yeah.
Come on, what are we doing here?
By the way, for those listening who may not know what ADOT is, it's average depth of target. So
Yeah.
just wanted to explain that real quick.
It's a very important tool when measuring what kind of routes receivers are running and what the scheme they're running is. There's guys that run short, long, intermediate, whatever. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, as a complete non sequitur, I saw that Olave had 326 air yards or something, or 365 air yards.
Did you see that? I had never seen a number like that before.
I was like, wait, no, this can't be right. Anyway, air yards are yards that are thrown but not caught, if that makes sense.
I mean, their air yards is basically like how deep are the routes that they're running when they get targeted, basically.
Right.
You know, how many yards could they potentially
have gotten
see through the air? Yeah, exactly. Right. So just to kind of put it in more simple terms. So
I'm in on Claypool. Let's do it. Okay, so we've got a 4-1 right now. Steeler to
we got a 4-1. I really like the 2-4 build.
Mm-hmm.
When we're 2-4, meaning we're playing 4 of the underdogs, 2 of the favorites. So in this case, we're playing 4 Steelers. I think we could put in another Browns player here.
Oh, I'm looking at him right now.
He came alive. It fits pretty.
He came alive last week, and in season long, I benched him because I was like, dude, I can't. I took him. So I'm a 0 RB shill, and I'm proud to say it. So I thought
as we all should be.
Thank you. Just trying to preach the gospel out here.
Yep.
And I ended up taking Amari Cooper in a sharp league. He was hanging around in like I want to say the fourth or 5th round. I ended up getting him as my last flex piece. And after week 1, I was like, dude, he is dusted. Like Amari's just got nothing left. And it was against the Panthers. And I know, they were up all game and back and forth and they just didn't look for him or whatever. And then he explodes 9 for 101 and a tutty. Like, that's what I want to see.
He leads the team in routes run.
Mm-hmm.
His target share is over 28%,
which is like dominant.
That's dominant. I mean, Amari Cooper is not. I think he's kind of had some negative PR, not PR, but his reputation has kind of diminished since he left Dallas, when I think people thought he was one of the.
It was a hit job. Call it what it is. It was a hit job by Jerry Jones. They didn't want to pay him. They got him out of town. That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
The same thing happened in Oakland too. Yep. A hit job over there until Dallas said, "Oh, we'll squeeze a couple of years out of him," and then they did, and they did the same thing.
Same exact thing. He just fits. I mean, we have 9,600 left. He fits perfectly into this build. I like it.
I like it too. All right, just to run through the lineup that we're going to submit right now, we got Kareem Hunt as our captain. Again, 1.5 points per point there. His salary's a little bit inflated. To adjust for that, we got the Steelers D. We got Mitch Trubisky. We got Najee Harris. We got Chase Claypool. And we've got Amari Cooper. Just one last look throughout. Do you fall victim to this? Because it happens to me all the time where I've got my lineup and then I'm like, ooh, but what if I can squeeze these extra $200 and get somebody else, right? Like all of a sudden I see Deontay Johnson. I'm like, ooh, but I kind of like Deontay Johnson. What if I swap these guys out? But I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I think it's okay to leave some salary on the table when it comes to Showdown. And we're not leaving a lot. I mean, we're leaving just $200. Like on any standard GPP week on a main slate, if you leave $200 on the table, that's totally fine. The goal isn't to spend the entire salary. The goal is to come up with a game script that you think is viable, build out a lineup that you could see playing out optimally while using most of your salary, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 100%.
I'm a tinkerer.
Yeah, we're all tinkerers.
Is that a word? Did I create a word, or is that
no? I think that's
tinkerer.
Should we look that up?
Look up tinkerer.
Tinkerer.
Anything that has er at the end, I feel like is not a word. All right, we're gonna update this entry. There we go. If we've got
Tinkerer is a Marvel character. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I had no idea.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah.
All right. So if we hit and we win 3K, I'm sending a check or Zelle or Venmo, whatever you like, straight to the Rauch household. And
Wow, thank you.
everybody will be happy.
Thank
and
you.
then
Thank you.
We'll make
Could
it happen.
help me buy more stuff on Amazon and then spend more money on Amazon Prime Video and all that good stuff. So
have you gotten game scores out yet? Do you know?
So-
do we have a little bit of a sneak peek for the
a
listeners
little bit of
here?
a sneak peek. Yeah. So our first run of projections came out today. I will preface it by saying it's the first run. This is going to change. There will be adjustments. We don't even know who's out yet. A lot of guys are questionable right now. A lot of these totals and lines could adjust over the next couple of days. So, let's talk about it, but take it with a grain of salt because this stuff is going to change over the next few days. I'm looking at our numbers right now, and I will say, by the way, we're kind of flipping the script from week 3 to week 2. In week 2, Showdown slate was pretty fun. Thursday night game was pretty fun. The main slate was on the surface, it was just okay. I think we had one game that had a total of above 50 in week 2. This week on the main slate, we've got 3 games with a total over 50, 2 games with a total at 52 or over. And we've also got 48 and a half. We've got a 47 and a half. Well, I'm sorry, 2 47 and a half and a 48 and a half. So this is a fun slate. The quarterbacks that are going to be available on this main slate are elite.
Yeah.
To put it lightly. I mean, it's going to be a good slate. There's games to choose from. And Tony, for the second week in a row, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but the way that the numbers are looking right now, it's happening. I think it may happen again.
No.
Well,
there's no way.
No,
no. There is a way.
There is a way.
Let me say that there is a way, especially in the matchup, right?
Yeah.
Because when Josh Allen comes to town, and that offense comes to town, and you have to keep up with that offense, like there is an absolute way.
There is an absolute way. Buffalo and Miami have 2 of the league's highest pass rates over expectation.
I love that. I love pass rate over expectation. Throw the ball.
Love it.
If you're a coach, throw the ball. We don't need to establish the run. That's 1984. No. We don't need that. We need to throw the ball every single down.
Well, hold on, Tony. We do need establish the run. We need to establish the run.
We definitely need to establish the run. Yes.
We need that.
Yes.
We don't necessarily need to in the game.
Establish it.
Right. Establish it. Right. And these 2 coaches don't want to do that. Mike McDaniel came in and he said he was going to change the offense, and look what happened through 2 weeks. I mean, he has. The Dolphins have 2 of the most skilled receivers in the league, in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Dude, I was so surprised. I was so surprised to see their target shares, Jalen Waddle and Tua. Tua is throwing 60% of the time to either one of those 2 guys. 60% of the time that Tua throws the ball, it's going to Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. That I don't know if I've ever seen a number that high.
Well, who's he going to throw to? Gesicki?
Well, I mean, we know how McDaniels feel about Gesicki. He wants him to get his ass on the line and beat Durham Smythe and block.
I know.
For Raheem Mostert, who I love, by the way. Brother. I love as a brother Raheem Mostert. But
he got the majority of the first team carries, I think, this past week. The script kind of flipped on Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert last week, which was interesting.
Chase Edmonds is not a feature back, though. No, but neither is Raheem Mostert. He's shown that his injury history, both guys are injury history.
Raheem Mostert is a burner. We all know that.
He's so good.
So fast. But yeah, going back to the game scores, Buffalo and Miami grades out really well right now. The only drawbacks, not drawbacks, but things that I would keep in mind is that it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is going to be expensive relative to other quarterbacks. Stephon Diggs, I think it's 7,700 on DraftKings.
Does that? I wonder what.
I have the salaries up. Tyreek Hill 7,600. Jalen Waddle 6,800. But Tua 6,100.
Dude, That's a building block right there, right?
And our first run of ownership, he's not heavily projected at all.
Really? You don't
Yeah,
think there's a bit of a recency bias when it comes to
no.
okay, Tua just threw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. Maybe I'll throw him in my lineup a little bit more.
No, yes, I think it will adjust. I think his ownership will end up being higher than that. But one thing that we should always keep in mind when we're playing main slates and GPPs is a lot of times quarterback ownership is going to be more leveled out. You're never really going to see quarterbacks that break 20% ownership. You may see some guys.
Jalen Hurts isn't going to break 20%. Look, it froze him. He was frozen. He was frozen by that comment. He look at the way he's looking at me. I froze him with that. And everybody here knows how much I love Jalen Hurts and how I thought Jalen Hurts was better than Tua. I still kind of have that. Oh, wait.
Tony, you there? Tony,
yeah, I got you. You got me.
Okay.
You froze when I told you Jalen Hurts sub 20%. You froze. You were dumbfounded.
I wasn't anticipating that question.
So Jalen Hurts is not going to get more than 20% ownership?
I mean, as we have it right now, no. And think about that. I mean, so we have him at 14.5%. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be viable on this slate. We just talked about Josh Allen. That's a bit of a spend up, but Josh Allen is obviously an elite ceiling play.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I mean, Lamar Jackson's still on the slate. Patrick Mahomes is still on this slate. I mean, there's, Justin Herbert's on this slate if he's healthy. Matthew Stafford's on this slate. Kyler Murray's on this slate. There's so many guys that people are going to be able to play. I just find it hard to, not difficult, but I think Hurts is definitely going to be one of the more owned quarterbacks, but I don't know if he's going to be as steamed as we think. He's 7,600. He's 7,600.
Yeah. A team that I've been really interested in. I'm actually really pissed at myself for not getting any shares in season long outside of a couple. I know you guys as a company were super high on the Sun God, and boy, am I kicking myself for not getting any. It was weird because I would have had to have reached for him in a lot of the season long leagues I'm in. I would have had to have reached for him in the spot that I was picking, and I was tempted to, but it was a guy that I missed out on a lot. But I'm circling Lions games now. It's like I need to watch Lions games. Like Lions Vikings this week. I don't know how they do in the game scores, but like to me, that's a game that can go nuclear because Justin Jefferson is pissed. Kirk Cousins needs to step his game up. Like I don't think there's anybody on the Lions that can cover Justin Jefferson. And to be honest, like I don't know who's going to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I don't think there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone on the planet who can cover Justin Jefferson. I think he's that good.
Darius Slade had something cooking. I don't know what it was. He pulled back a vintage Darius Slade game, but he shut him down.
Of the Darius Slade got lucky. Let's be real. Darius Slade, great corner, had a good night. Justin Jefferson, though, by far the best receiver in the NFL.
Yes.
So this game is the highest total game on the slate as of right now, 52.5 in a dome. Ceiling projection looks really good on this. The only other game with a higher average ceiling projection is Buffalo, Miami. We're getting a lot of good value. It's not as expensive as I think people would assume to stack it, just because the quarterbacks make it so easy to stack. Right. Kirk Cousins is only 6,700 and Jared Goff's 5,800.
Dude, Jared Goff has actually been playing really well. Like they're using for as much as we laughed about Hard Knocks and for as much as we laughed about biting the kneecaps and three toes and one ass cheek and all that stuff, like they're getting the most out of Jared Goff since McVay had him when they went to the Super Bowl, getting him to throw into the middle of the field, which is a plus for him. Their offensive line is top 5 in the league. Like the continuity from last year to this year, they're keeping a lot of their offensive pieces. I think DeAndre Swift is incredible. That's the only share of lines that I have is DeAndre Swift. Yeah. And
DeAndre Swift's so good.
I love their offense, man. I am a believer now. All of a sudden, I was so out on Jared Goff, but looking to see what he's been doing the last let's say the last 10 games or so, where Amon-Ra's really almost unlocked the potential for this offense. Who knew it was all they needed was a day 3 wide receiver named Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Like, I mean, he's got the best name in the NFL too. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Ooh, more than his brother EQ St. Brown.
He's do something. Do something in a game, Equanimous.
He caught a touchdown in the monsoon.
I know. Yeah, no, he did.
Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown going back towards the end of last year, when I think it was the final 8 weeks of the season, his target share was elite. I mean, among the best in the NFL. People were a little bit skeptical that I think that would carry over to this year, but for all the reasons that you laid out, Amon-Ra may be in the conversation as, dare I say, this year's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
where he just kind of comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's a wide receiver 1 candidate. Their offensive line is great. DeAndre Swift is insanely skilled out of the backfield, both on and in the receiving game. Mm-hmm. They have a good offense. I think some guys at ATR took bets on Dan Campbell to win Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year, yeah, early too.
Early.
Pre-Hard Knocks.
Yeah, pre-Hard Knocks before it got steamed up. So yeah, this game should be fun. If we're talking about building a stack around it, you got to be mindful of Justin Jefferson's salary because he's $9,300.
He's highest on the slate, no? Or is Cooper Kupp higher?
Let's
because I saw stats.
No, Cooper Kupp's higher at 9,900.
I saw numbers on Cooper Kupp where I was just like, Adam said it during the team preview or the week 3 team by team, where out of 23 games that Cooper Kupp's played with Matthew Stafford, he's got over 90 receiving yards in 21 of them. And I'm like, what? How? Yeah. He's got what? He's got 25 receptions this year in 2 games. Like he got 13 balls the first game and caught 12 balls his last game.
He got 13 receptions in week 1 against Buffalo. He had 11 receptions on 14 targets last week against Atlanta.
Like he's got 22 or 23, whatever, catches in 2 games. Like he's on pace for.
Like, well, let's talk about that game then.
180 catches.
I mean, Cooper Kupp remains elite. I mean, there's not a whole lot to be said. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp just have the symbiotic connection. They get breakfast together. I mean,
breakfast narrative. Yeah,
breakfast narrative. I don't know what they're eating, but
dude, I need some of that. Whatever it is. Are you worried if play a little season long for a second? Are you worried about Allen Robinson or no?
No, not over. I think a lot of people kind of overreacted to that week 1 game. Granted, it's the first game of the year. It's on prime time. Allen Robinson's line on that game is going to stick out a bunch.
Yeah,
but still on the field. I mean, he's getting the route participation. I mean, he's still a really good receiver and a really good offense. I'm not too worried about it. I think if you have Allen Robinson in your season-long teams and you're worried, don't sell him just yet, because right now you'd be selling low.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know how confident I am in selling low on a guy who has played 2 games this year on a new team. By the way, last week found the end zone, 4 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown.
And should have had 2.
Should have had 2 because of a call. Yeah, I think that one of his touchdowns got called back before the whistle. But I would say hold firm on Allen Robinson. I think we've seen enough from him. I think we've seen enough from Sean McVay and this Rams offense where we need to give a little bit more time.
Give me another game here that you're excited about in this slate. Okay. Do we like Eagles commies? Do we like that game or no? Carson Wentz has been slinging the shit out of the ball.
He has been.
Not efficiently or well, but he's slinging the shit out of the ball.
Yeah. It just worries me.
Betting on him or playing that game in general?
Both. Betting on him, playing him in a DFS lineup. He's had some productive weeks. The Eagles defense been pretty good. I mean, you saw last week they shut down the Vikings
Mm-hmm.
at home. This game is going to be in Washington, so maybe that favors the Redskins a little bit more. But I don't want to look into home field advantage too much as like a factor of, betting on a game or looking at a game. So the total is 47.5. The Eagles are favored by 6.5 points.
That feels low, right?
I don't know. I mean,
that feels.
You're saying they should be favored by more?
I'm saying they should be favored.
Yeah.
I think that should be more than a touchdown.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there.
The Eagles. I think the Eagles are one, if not the best team in the NFL. Right? Okay. The Bills. Hold on. All right. The Bills are really good.
The Bills are really. The
Chiefs
Eagles
are really good.
The Chiefs are really good. But
I'd say they're top 5 right now in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have a shot to represent the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, easily.
For sure. If Jalen Hurts continues at this pace,
I mean, man, he's evolved so much as a passer. I remember last year people laughed me off the show when we used to do the Sunday night shows, where I used to say, "Hey, Jalen Hurts is better than Tua," and I'll stand by that. Right, like that whole argument that Jalen Hurts has juice, Tua didn't have any juice. Tua finally showed some juice on Sunday, where he came back from behind, threw for a million things, right? But when you're talking about Jalen Hurts, everything was he's inaccurate. His ball placement's not great. His reading the defenses is kind of suspect. Like he puts balls in tight windows that probably shouldn't be thrown in. All of a sudden, he's evolved from last year to this year, where he's rolling out and throwing dimes. He's rolling out and throwing to Quez Watkins across his body. Like A.J. Brown being in town is a massive upgrade to what he's doing on offense, because it was Devonta Smith, it was Quez Watkins. Who else was there?
Dallas Goedert. Dallas
Goedert's a mainstay, but there was another wide receiver who was like just another guy was like, oh, they got this guy out of Reading Market. Like, oh, here, you could play for the Eagles. Come on, let's go. But like his evolution.
Travis Fulgham, was that?
Yeah, Travis, exactly. He was like 6'5" guy where I was like, oh, this guy's amazing. And he had one game where like 100 yards. But when you look at the leap that he's taken offensively, and we kind of thought all of us sharp, quote unquote sharps, thought that Nick Sirianni was kind of a clown. We're just like, Nick Sirianni, like, what's the deal here? And all of a sudden, their defense looks good, right? Their offensive line is plus, their weapons are plus. Like Jalen Hurts is now plus. Like this is a team that's really good, man. I've got, as you can tell, I'm talking everybody into. I have massive amounts of Jalen Hurts shares, so I'm just hoping the MVP.
Oh, those MVP tickets!
Exactly.
If you bet on Jalen Hurts earlier in the offseason to MVP, I mean,
I've got a couple sprinkled in with him. I got a couple Josh Allens. I got a couple Joe Burrows that I do not like right now.
Ooh. Oh, God, not to change the subject, but man, our offensive line.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Unexpectedly bad. They were supposed to be one of the most improved offensive lines. They went out and spent money. I mean, they had draft capital on the offensive line.
Lyle Collins said, "I'm your bodyguard. You're not going to get any sacks." The last 6 games, they've allowed 30 sacks.
It's it's a mystery to me, honestly. I just don't know how their offensive line play has regressed so much. And not to get too off topic on no,
let's get off
Philly.
Topic. That's fine.
Okay, we'll get off. Because this is Cincinnati's team, especially at DFS, because you know where the targets are going.
Right.
Excuse me. You know where the targets are going. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are, again, you have one of the most elite wide receiver duos in the league. And we have seen over the course of the last year or so that both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase can produce these elite ceiling games that win you slates.
Yep.
It's hard to have confidence in Joe Burrow when his offensive line has been underperforming to such a high degree. But they're playing the Jets this week. And that Browns-Jets game popped last week. The Browns were when Jacoby Brissett was throwing dimes to Amari Cooper. If they can just protect Joe Burrow 6,600 this week. T. Higgins is 6,100 on Draftkings. Jamar Chase is 8,100. I could take a look at their kind of where we have them at ownership. I think it's going to be low.
81 is steep.
It's steep, but he's not going to be played that much. because no one's going to want to pay that price. So you can
Right.
gain some leverage there if you think the Bengals can pop against the Jets. You may be getting a discount. Jamar Chase, we have projected for single-digit ownership right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially after last week, right? He got, for some reason, a perennial burn victim in Trayvon Diggs completely blanketed Jamar Chase. I don't think it was because of Jamar Chase. It was obviously because Micah Parsons just wasn't being covered by anybody.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before, where a guy just could not be stopped. It was like Lawrence Taylor. It was like, guys, and I don't know if you saw. I'm sure you saw because you see everything. But there was video from the broadcast where
I think I know
where Joe Burrow screams out to Zach Taylor, "No more empty. Can we stop running empty, dude? Please." Like, they know I'm going to throw the ball. I can't run, even though he had more rushes than I've almost ever seen Joe Burrow have, just because he would get away and there was just nobody there and he had to run. But
Zach Taylor may be fake sharp.
Oh yeah,
he may be fake
add him
sharp.
to the list. Add him to the list of him and Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh gosh.
But I'm pretty exposed to Jamar Chase in a couple leagues. In my big money league, I'm heavily exposed to him because I took him 6th overall, or 5th overall, excuse me. And I was encouraged by his usage. He should have had 2 touchdowns in that first game against the Steelers. For whatever reason, they didn't challenge the one where he was clearly in. I saw it from my couch in my underwear. But I'm not worried about Jamar Chase, even though last week was kind of a down game for the entire offense. I still think that he's a top 5 guy.
He's a top 5 guy. I don't know if I would necessarily go out of my way to like full game stack this game in a GPP. The Bengals at the Jets. Total was a little bit lower at 45, but just you could do a little bit of a mini stack or a mini correlation, get some good ceiling in there with those guys. One other game that I want to run by you, if that's cool with you.
Of course.
Let's talk about the Chiefs-Colts game.
Okay.
Kind of a tale of...
Before we talk about the Chiefs-Colts, can we talk for 2 minutes about Jags-Colts last week?
Oh.
Because I think, and I've been saying this to people off mic because I can't get my shot off enough to talk deep football on the show. I like the Jags this year. I'm Jag in. Okay. Like
you're not Jag out.
I'm not Jag out. I'm Jag in. I really like Christian Kirk. I'm surprised by James Robinson. Yeah. I think Trevor Lawrence is finally starting to turn the corner. I mean, this past game that he had against the Colts was a really good game and something that you see from a number 1 pick. That being said, using that as a catapult, the Colts, man, like we thought they were a quarterback away 2 years ago when they got Carson Wentz, and then they were a quarterback away this year when they got Matt Ryan, and Matt looks just absolutely done, dude.
Yeah. And okay, so having Michael Pittman out last week was a big factor.
Yes.
Let's not forget that Michael Pittman was out injured last week. His status for this week, as of right now, I think he's probably
he's limited in practice. He's practiced.
Is he limited today? Okay.
He has practice though.
He has practice. That's a good sign. If they get Michael Pittman back, they're going to be more viable to play. Problem is, Kansas City has a really good defense.
Yeah.
It's a little troubling. If you were heading into the season thinking that Indianapolis was going to be a shoo-in to win the AFC South, I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore after watching them for 2 weeks. I mean, they had trouble. They got
2 divisional games. They had 2 divisional games and lost them both.
They
tied, but to me, that's a loss. That's a loss.
If
you're the Colts being the division leader, if you tie the Texans in game 1 in overtime, that is a loss in my book.
I was at that game. It felt like both teams lost.
Well, yeah. The Davis Mills train is losing steam, buddy. It's just me and his mom and his dad at this point. I mean, the bandwagon is a losing.
We don't have
steam.
to get. I know it's losing steam, but guys, it's the perfect time to buy low.
Yeah, it is. It is.
We'll see. Well, the Texans, they're playing the Bears this week. That's not really a game that I think can be viable for the investment.
Nobody wants to watch that.
Nobody wants to watch that.
Even though I'll
watch it. I'll watch it. I support the team. I'm going to watch the game. But okay. So, but let's talk. I want to go Chiefs Indianapolis game. It's another 50-plus total game. The Chiefs passing core and Travis Kelce, they're easy to fit in the lineups. Just due to the way the pricing breaks out.
Mm-hmm.
Highest priced receiver on Kansas City on DraftKings is Juju Smith-Schuster, $5,500.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. I think some people are a little concerned. There's a lot of chatter heading into the year that Juju Smith-Schuster could be one of the kind of sleeper candidates at wide receiver, could potentially have a breakout year. And it hasn't necessarily played out that way so far, even though he had an okay week 1, but in week 2,
the fumble killed him. If you were playing him in season long, like he could have had a better game. The fumble kind of hurt.
Yeah. But there's ways you can stack that game and be really unique. And I don't necessarily think people will want to spend up at tight end. I'm pulling up Chiefs ownership right now. I don't necessarily think people want to spend up at Travis Kelce at 7,900 because I think they'll want to probably spend up more at receiver.
Yeah.
So I could see Travis Kelce's ownership being a little bit lower than the market may anticipate.
And I do want to talk to the people that thought Travis Kelce was going to hit last week. Obviously, his splits when Derwin James is on the field versus off are like he's a different person, right? Like that 5 for 51 was a miracle compared to some of the other games that he's had with Derwin James on the field. So I think that when you talk about having that elite tight end build, you obviously have to almost kind of be matchup agnostic, where you're like, he's my guy, and I just have to either. There's more of a fade possibility when you're playing DFS, but when you're in season long, sorry if I had my mic over. When you're in season long and you take that elite tight end round 2, round 3, where you're like, this is my guy, and I'm not changing any matchups. You have to be matchup agnostic. You look at that Derwin James game, and I was just like, well, fuck it. Like, I'm not gonna play, even though I told people to pick up Gerald Everett, and I really like him, by the way. But you're not going to pick up a guy from the wire to sub in for Travis Kelce because of one thing. So when you look at this game, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what Evan Ingram did last week. Not much. OJ Howard caught 2 touchdowns the week prior on 3 snaps, and he had 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns on 3 snaps. It was glorious. Shout out to OJ Howard.
Shout out to Eric Ebron that one time with the Colts where he had like 80 snaps and like 14 touchdowns. But I'm still full go on Travis Kelce against the Colts. I just don't think their defense is as good as we thought it was going to be.
And I would also I haven't looked into this yet, but I am curious to see the status of Shaq Leonard, Darius Leonard. I think he played. Did he play last week? He was out for week 1. And actually, I don't think he played in week 2, but he's the centerpiece of that defense. If he's not playing or if he's limited, I mean that's wheels up for Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's an interesting game. Again, like I just want to reiterate to everybody that our projections will adjust over the course of the week. So I encourage everyone to subscribe to Established Run and check out the game scores, check out our projections. Yes. There's tons of good information going up every day. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun week. It's gonna be a fun week 3, in my opinion.
It's always, dude. There's NFL football on. It's always a fun week, no matter what happens. I was out of a bunch of season long games and DFS games by like halftime of this past week, and I was like, doesn't matter. You know what? I don't care. It's
football's
okay.
here.
Football's here. We're basking in its glow. It's like a pink hueish glow that just envelops me on my couch. My wife is like planning stuff on Sundays, and I'm like, babe, she's like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. And I'm like, okay, can we do it early? So luckily she's a good sport. But is there any other game that catches your eye that you're a little excited about, that you're a little interested in, that you want to talk about before we go?
Okay, sorry, you found me one a little bit there, but I caught you at the very end.
We have no audio.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Hold on. Let's see if we can. I'm going to remove him here. I'm going to put him back in.
Hello.
Adam, you got us?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Oh, he can hear us, but we can't hear him. Chat, do we hear him or no?
Chat. Hello, chat.
As Adam goes to fix his stuff, I want to put this up. ERB Junior. These dudes don't know shit. Steelers gonna win. Bet it, dude. Like I told you that the Steelers were gonna win 45 minutes ago. I was gonna bet. Look at his face. He's stuck on his face. ERB Junior, brother. I said the Steelers were gonna win 45 minutes ago. I'm taking the points plus 4.5. I don't know why we don't know shit because I said they were gonna win. Alas.
Let him talk. Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me
what
now?
can you
My
do?
audio good. My audio good.
Some people saying that they can hear you. Maybe it's just me. Am I tripping?
Chat, is it Tony?
Oh, what a fabulous way to end this. I don't know if this is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, so the chat can hear Adam. I can't hear Adam for whatever reason. I appreciate him coming on. You can hear me though, right? Adam, you give me thumbs up. You can hear me. He hears me. Okay, so this is how we're gonna end it beautifully. Usually, as some of these things go, shit happens. I appreciate Adam Rauch for coming on. Follow him at @Rauch1. All of his stuff is on establishedrun.com. Go subscribe to that. They are the best in the business when it comes to DFS and season long, putting you in the meat of the action when it comes to the most actionable stats and conversation. Evan Silva, Adam Levitan, Drew Dinkmeyer, the guys over there are doing an amazing job. This is Smart Football People. We do it every single Thursday. We're going to have Adam on again for sure. Lou Gabagool is somewhere out there in the world. We're going to have him on next week and see if we can get some of the kings of Established to Run to come and hang out with us. We got to get Levitan. We got to get Silva one of these days. We got to get Leone. We got to get all these guys. But again, we fade into silence. I don't know what to tell you. That's shit happens.
All up,
Adam,
Tony.
thank you, my brother. Appreciate you as always. And enjoy the game tonight, guys. Peace.
See you.